Okay.
Well, y'all, we are welcoming Jason Carver to the podcast today. He is with Standing Supernaturally for Marriage Restoration Ministry, which if you've never heard of, I've never heard of. But we have a friend that is standing supernaturally for a marriage that her husband walked away from. And I know that's your story also. And I just think it's going to be a super interesting conversation because this is not something we hear about very often, certainly not from the pulpit or something, and I'm sure you never for a minute when you're pastoring at a church ever dreamt this was going to be your story. So welcome to the podcast. Take it away. Tell us how this whole thing got started.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm a pastor in Waco, Texas. And, really the day that my world fell apart, I mean, the whole thing happened.
Yeah.
It was actually on a Mother's Day. It was just, I thought everything was fine. Of course, I knew my wife was struggling. I knew we were going through some stuff and we were seeing a marriage counselor and, I knew things weren't great. I had no idea what was really going on.
Wow.
But Mother's Day, I was walking out the door Sunday morning to get set up at our early service. And I was walking out and Christine stopped me. She says, "Hey, Jason, why don't you give the kids a kiss before you go and tell them you love them?" And I'm like, okay, happy to.
Good idea.
But it's not our normal conversation. Like, I want to see you in an hour and a half, and we woke up the kids and told them I love them. And since we were up, I was like, well, since everyone's up, do we want to do Mother's Day gifts now? And Chris was like, yeah, let's do Mother's Day gifts now. So we did Mother's Day gifts.
Oh, wow.
Kissed everyone. And I said, I'll see you guys at church in about an hour. And that was the last time I saw my wife or children for over 30 days.
Man.
When I was at church, she had it planned. She left, took the kids. She left her phone on the kitchen counter.
Wow.
She took the kids and took a cat. And
whoa,
there it was. And I had no idea.
I mean, so you walk back in the house and are you like, it's Mother's Day. So you're preaching a message on mothers, on his own wife. Yeah. And you walk back in and do you go to the closets? Like, are you thinking they've maybe been abducted?
So I knew something was happening. I knew something was happening halfway. So I'm the senior associate, and I was in the back there. And her job, she actually was a part of our TV ministry, so she kind of ran all the cameras.
Okay.
And so when she didn't show up, and I'm like,
this is weird.
Where's Chris? Yeah, she's kind of supposed to be here. She kind of has something to do. Never showed up. And then my dad was living with us at the time when he was still alive, and so we had a Mother's Day meal planned right after service, and my dad showed up and I said, "Where's Chris?" And he goes, "I don't know, you tell me." And he was kind of said something, and he was like, "I saw her and the girls leave." And I'm like, as soon as he said that, my heart dropped. And I knew something, just my spirit, everything. I knew something went on. I ran home, saw the phone there, and I called our marriage counselor who we were seeing at the time. I said, "Hey, look, this is what's going on." She was kind of struggling with some mental health situations, and I just said, "Hey, look, she's gone. The kids are gone."
Man.
And that opened up
terrifying.
the door. It's awful. And, and so the next day, actually, since I didn't know, we didn't have any idea. And I had to file a missing persons report the next day.
Yeah.
Go to the police. I'm like, I don't know where my wife and children are.
Wow.
And that began to unfold the process that we finally found out where they were, that they were safe.
How many days was that before you found that out?
Probably the next day, that next evening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the police. So what happened here is that she actually went into a women's abuse shelter.
Whoa.
So she moved into a shelter.
Holy smokes! With the kids.
So with the kids. And so when I'm over here talking to the police about, "Hey, I don't know who my wife are," they kind of start doing the research, and I was like, maybe other things are going on, and they kind of respond back. They just said, "She's fine."
Yeah.
And that's all they told me. And I'm like, because of course they don't want me to know where she's at.
Yeah.
In a situation when someone needs to go to a shelter, I mean, I get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what was going on. And so a little of a backstory, my wife was feeling very, very hurt. She was really struggling with some other things, but also just, I wasn't always acting the way we should have. And so she would be calling these hotlines, and they would tell her, "Girl, that's emotional abuse. You got to get out of here."
Right.
And no one ever, we never had talk. And our counselor, that really wasn't the situation, but that's what she felt.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they just led her down a road and sucked her in. And next thing you know, so I didn't have any conversation with her for 30 days, except I got a knock on the door. and it was divorce papers. And so our contact broke when I was received divorce papers. And that's when I just knew this is not God's plan.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not the plan of the Lord.
No.
This is the plan of brokenness. This is the plan of my brokenness, my sin, her brokenness, her sin. I was like, this is not God's plan.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just took the divorce papers, and literally that day that I got them, I laid them on the ground when I got them. And I walked into my bedroom, turned on my Apple TV, and I stood on them, and I just started to worship and sing, God, you're a good, good Father.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I needed to, for me, I thought, this isn't good. This sucks.
Yes.
This is awful.
Yeah.
But you're good, God. And I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. And none of this makes sense to me. But I have to set my eyes on the goodness of God. And I just started worshiping the Lord. I need you to heal me. I need you to take me on a journey here. And he did. And it was about a year and a half, almost 2-year journey of standing and believing and praying and having the Lord do whatever he needed to do. And he started with me. And he just did this transformation. I was praying for the divorce not to go through. And so we were praying and praying and praying. And a year and a half after she walked out the door, the divorce finalized. The state of Texas said, my marriage is over.
Right.
But I just knew this wasn't it. I'm like, this is not the end. We have a resurrecting God.
Yeah.
And so I shifted from praying for restoration to praying for resurrection.
Wow.
Make a long story short, 2 months.
Yeah. So
go
she
ahead.
went and did the divorce goes through and she moves on, or
Yeah, so she's dating someone about that time. So
Yes.
a good 6-7 months in the picture, she's dating someone, and she's telling me constantly, Jason, it's over. Jason, move on. You know, it was
Yeah.
the Taylor Swift anthem. We're never getting back together.
Right.
She told me
Never,
that
ever, ever.
constantly, never,
Okay.
ever. And she says, Jason, it's over. Jason, it's over. Jason, it's over. And so I heard that constantly. And yeah, there was another person involved, and I just, had to really hear what the Lord was telling me. And that's a little bit of a very super crash course of our journey.
And so at the point of, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I can understand standing supernaturally until the divorce,
Yep.
but then the
Yep.
divorce takes place and you don't stop.
No. Nothing
So
changed for
tell me what was going on. Had you received a really clear word from the Lord just because the world says it's over? It's not over.
what?
How does that work?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. We have this standing ministry is what we call it, and people call it. I had no idea there was such a thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, I had no idea there was a standing people who stand for the marriage. I had no idea because like so many other pastors, okay, you pray maybe the God would heal it, but as soon as a divorce happens,
it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
it's over. It's
Yeah.
over. And I'm like, but why? But that's never what the Lord told me. He's like, wait a second. I am a resurrecting God. And one of the verses he just really hit home with me was Romans chapter 4, verse 17. And he says that he brings life to the dead
Yeah.
and calls into existence the things that don't exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it just went back. Okay, what broke down this marriage? Once again, this was not God's plan. It just
Yeah.
wasn't his plan.
Yeah.
So I just had to choose. Okay, if this isn't your plan, Lord,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to choose to say, God, you still have a plan for us. You still have a plan for me. You still have a plan for my kids. I'm like, I do not want my children to be living in separate homes. I don't want them going to Christmases forever. Like I saw the stats and I would see these interviews, and I just kept seeing these interviews during this season and there was these celebrities or some other people, and they were telling a story, and it was usually a story of the troubles in their life.
Yeah.
And they said this phrase constantly. I was 8 years old when.
Uh-huh.
I was 12 years old when.
Sure.
I was 7 years old when. And we all know what the when was.
Yeah.
When my parents got divorced. And it was such a defining moment in children's life. And I'm like, this is not going to be my children's story. And one, I'm like, I'm going to love my wife. And here's another one. I'm going to love my wife like Christ loves the church.
Wow.
And gave himself up for her. So I'm like, okay, so in the mandate of loving our spouses, there's a sacrificial element, and gave himself up for her. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to love her. And I was being rejected. I was being replaced,
Right.
you name it.
Right.
And I was like, wait a second. And I could not get out of my mind this aspect, loving her like Christ loves the church. And have I ever committed adultery on Christ? Have I ever chose not to follow Christ? Is he ever just pulled himself away from us? And I just couldn't leave that. And I'm not saying that, that some people start over and God's not upon that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm just saying, I just felt in my spirit, I knew this thing wasn't done. This thing wasn't over. The world said it was over.
Yeah.
But I just, something in my spirit's like, no, this
How
isn't
do
it.
you
And-
love someone who doesn't want to be loved, though? I mean, I think most therapists would say,
Yep.
you know, if they're not willing to get help or if they're not,
Yep.
I mean, like it's kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, that's very one-sided.
It's a one-way street.
Yeah.
It-
So
it is a ve-
why, I mean,
yes.
how does that even, what is the benefit of that? I guess is the question, because it feels not
Okay.
hopeless, but I mean, it feels a little bit like I'm just going to do that. And what's the time frame
I mean,
on that?
it feels
you
like a
know?
modern day Hosea and Gomer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, not to give us a Sunday school answer, but I could not shake. Okay. This is one-sided. No doubt.
Yes.
I want her. She doesn't want me. Okay. I have hope. She doesn't have hope.
Yes.
It was clearly one-sided. Well, I would ask you, pray, ask the Lord to show me, Lord, I need you to lead me here.
Yeah.
I need you to lead me, because, for me, I couldn't shake the fact I wanted to represent Jesus in this season.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to represent him.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't shake. Well, Jesus doesn't stop loving me because I might turn from him. Or he
Right.
doesn't, I couldn't shake that. And I know
Wow.
that, like I said, at Sunday school, I just couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
Wow.
but what if? So I remember telling my counselor, because I just kept meeting with my counselor, a marriage counselor. I kept meeting with her. And I just felt this impression. I was like, her name was Courtney. I said, Courtney, what if? I said, I'm not blaming anyone for why marriages fall apart or why marriages don't come back together. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, but what if I truly follow the Lord every moment? What if I loved unconditionally? What if I allowed long suffering to be a part of my story? Because that is a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Right.
Long suffering. Heck, girls, I don't even like short suffering.
Right.
I like so long suffering.
Right.
But it's a
Right.
mandate of the Scripture.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what if I allow the Lord, for the joy of the Lord to be my strength? And now I'm not worried about the time frame. I'm not worried about, is she coming home in 2 months? Is she coming home in 6 months? Is she coming in 1? What if I laid all that down to the Lord? Say, Lord, I'm going to be led by your Spirit. And I'm going to make sure the fruit of the Spirit, I'm going to walk out. God, you've promised me life abundantly. So even as I'm waiting, even as she's doing whatever she's doing, I can prosper. I can prosper in my job. I can prosper in my health. I'm going to follow you with all of my heart, but I'm also going to have my door open and believe, God, this thing is not done. I'm just
Yeah.
going to believe this somehow. And if I wait, and I'm going to have to wait years or 2 years, and if I'm single, well, you know what, Lord? I'm going to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And until you bring her back, I'm going to be good. Now, of course, there's times we cried myself to sleep, of course.
Yeah.
And we find the healing of God. And yes, there's a journey of how we walk this out, but that fundamental principle, okay, Lord, is anything too hard for you?
Yeah.
Jeremiah, Luke 137, nothing is impossible with
Right.
God. And he started showing me these passages. And he just said, Jason, do you believe it? Are you just preaching a
Yeah.
good game? Do
Right.
you believe in a supernatural God? Do you believe that nothing is impossible? Do you believe I can turn the hearts of stone into the heart of flesh? Do you believe I can transform a mind? And because in the natural, Christine, her heart was the enemy. I mean, it was all there. And he
Yeah.
just put the power of God in front of me and simply just invited me. He says, do you believe this is who I am?
Yeah.
And I just said, okay.
It's interesting because we just spoke with somebody on a podcast earlier who has seen, who was part of raising somebody from the dead, has seen 6 people raised from the dead.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I look at this and hear about this and I think,
Yep.
oh my goodness, like I can't, I mean,
Yep.
if somebody has already gotten a divorce and they've
Yep.
even gotten remarried, I can see how much my faith is really not strong in this area. Like I do see it as dry bones. And remember when he asked him, can these dry bones live? And I
Can they
think I
live?
would be thinking,
Not
no,
really.
they definitely can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what he said. He said, Lord. I mean, he didn't even have an answer. He said,
Yeah.
can these live? He goes back to, Elijah goes, well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the interesting of that story is that what did the Lord tell Elijah? He said, well, then you prophesy to the bones.
Yeah.
Right.
He had to be
He did
part of the miracle.
He had to partner. He had
Totally.
to be. And so you're spot on. So I completely agree and understand that this is something that hasn't been kind of in the church.
Yeah.
And I completely
I think it's
understand
amazing.
Yeah.
that this is a resurrection ministry. When people
Yeah,
ask me
it
what I do,
really
it's like, look,
is.
I'm not a marriage. I mean, yes, I'm a certified marriage counselor. I was like, but no, we don't have a marriage ministry. We have a resurrection
Yeah.
ministry.
This
We
is really what
point
this
people
is.
to believe that nothing is too hard for God.
So, okay. So walk us through. So
Yeah.
you're 18, 19, 20 months into this. You're standing. She's dating somebody. The
Into
divorce is final.
Yeah.
Divorce is final. And then
Yep.
how's Christine responding to this love that you don't stop showing her?
She's responding. Let me say it this way. Let me describe maybe at the beginning of how I was showing my love. The beginning of it, the good 6-8 first months, my love was like, let me show you what God says. This isn't God's plan. Here's all these verses.
I bet
Here's
she
all
loved
these
that.
sermons. I mean, she loved me being the Holy Spirit. And she's like, this is why I left you. Hello.
Yes.
You know? And she's like, no, I'm not coming home to that. So
Right.
it really was a shift when I surrendered and I never gave up. And I can honestly say, I never once stopped believing. And I never once said, well, maybe I should move on. I really never went there.
That's
But what I did
amazing.
allow the Lord to say, Lord, I'm going to love her externally at whatever she allows me in, whatever that looks like. In the spirit realm, man, I was praying and believing and declaring. All right.
Yeah.
But whenever we were together, because we had young ones at the time, so we did have some interaction.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna whatever door she's allowed open and she lets me in, I'm gonna meet that, and I'm gonna stop pushing. And there were some jokes every now and then. She always knew I wanted her back. And she always knew the door was open, and so that never ever stopped. You know, that she didn't know that, she didn't ever not know that. But so I really just started shifting. I really just started trying to be a friend to her,
Yeah.
and I had to, even stop saying, hey, I love you. You love me too. I mean, she's like, no, I don't. I mean, so I had to like quit fishing to get stuff.
Yes.
And I just had to now. So what happened? I had to trust the Lord was moving.
Yeah.
And so I started just loving differently. And then once I did that, our relationship absolutely shifted a bit, and she became a little bit more comfortable around me because guess what? I stopped trying to convict her.
Right.
Yeah.
I just really started
convince
loving
her
her.
that you were right.
Convince her. Yeah, exactly. I just had to drop all that, and we just started, meeting, and like that never changed. But so that's probably what shifted the most. I mean, she still was the whole process. I mean, even the day that she came home, she had a boyfriend the very morning she came home until the supernatural. It was a miracle. A miracle happened that day. But even that morning, she still had someone else. She was like, no, I don't want anything. I'm not coming home to this.
Well, so what caused her, if she still had a boyfriend, what caused her to come home?
Yeah. Well, couple of things. One, it was the power of God.
Okay.
I just want everyone to hear that. If you're watching this, you might hear them tell you, no, a year and a half straight. And their heart is hardened and their eyes are shut and it is not happening. And I'm telling you, it just takes a moment of the power of God to fall. Never forget the God that we serve, the resurrection power of God.
Yes.
We carry that. You and I, every one of us as a Christian, we carry the ministry of reconciliation. We get to carry it and watch the Lord bring it out. So here's what happened. That morning, it was a Sunday morning, and she needed her phone fixed. She had a problem with her iPhone. And so she actually came to the house, and I was trying to fix it, and it wasn't working. And we were in the parking, we were in the driveway of our home. And a little before that, either the day or two before, I forget, the Lord gave me a picture. A word of knowledge or whatever you want to call it. But I saw the guy she was with. I saw him cheating on her. I just saw it. But I'm like, I mean, I can't tell her that. Of course, she's going to think I'm going to tell her the guy's cheating on her. Yeah. I'm like, okay, Lord, what do I do with this? And so I just started praying, Lord, protect her heart. Lord, protect her heart. And we were talking and she said something and I almost said something and I stopped. And then she said this, Jason, what do you know? That's what she said. Jason, what do you know?
Wow.
And I'm like, no. She's like, Jason, and then she said, Jason, God told you something, didn't she? And so this time, so she still think I hear God on some areas, right?
Yeah, right.
Just not her relationship. But then she, was asking, and I said, Chris, he's cheating on you. And then something just shifted right then, and she shook her head, and she walked into the kitchen. Didn't say a word. She was just upset. Because we were arguing. I think we even had an argument that morning. Hey, come home, and it was one of those that we did have a little come back. And she's like, no. And that's what opened up the conversation.
Okay.
And so she went into the kitchen and I was standing at the kitchen door. And then I said this, I said, Chris, he's going to break your heart. And when he does, and when I said, when he does, she was convinced I was going to say, she hasn't come in. I'm going to be there watching it. So she just knew I was about to say something negative. But what I said was, Chris, he's going to break your heart. And when he does, I'll be right here waiting for you.
Wow.
And something just shifted in her heart. Something just, it broke. And we walked into the kitchen and we walked into the living room and we started talking. And she's telling me what she was feeling. She's like, Jason, I really believe God told me to leave you. And we were having an honest conversation. Now I wasn't trying to convict. We were just talking. And I just mentioned, and I said, I bet I'm not shocked if you've heard something and felt something. And the verse brought up, I said, there's a scripture that says, even if an angel of light presents to you a gospel, he'll be eternally damned. I was like, there are factors and spiritual forces that might tell us something that's not true. And I wasn't saying it in judgment. And she said, and this is what she said. She said, well, I don't think I was deceived. But then she said this. She said, well, I guess it's possible I was deceived. And ladies, as soon as she said the word, it's possible, she said a light came into her and she goes, oh my gosh, I was deceived. And then she said, boom, it just broke right then.
Wow.
And she goes, can I come home to be with the girls? Because the girls were with me at this time. They were staying with me. And she said, can I come home to be with the girls? And I said, absolutely.
Wow.
And then by that evening, or a couple hours later, we already had a family cruise booked. We went to a hotel that night as a family. And next thing you know, we got remarried 4 days later.
Wow.
And that night in the hotel, that next night, we were like, are we going to get remarried? And she was like, yeah, I guess so. Wow. And then it started, and we both, and this is what's crazy, if I can tell you this story, we were like, I had so many pastors, ready to remarry us, believing our story, but nothing felt right. Like, right. Well, do I get married at the church? What do I do? But none of it felt right. And we were in the hotel that Tuesday night and Monday night. And I just I said, what if we go to Vegas to get remarried? And as soon as I said that, let's go to Vegas, I'm telling you, we felt the presence of God fill the hotel room. What? And we were like, yes, let's go to Vegas and get remarried. And so now we booked. So this is Monday night. So now we book a hotel. We book a place. We're going to Vegas. We're going this weekend to go to Vegas. We call her parents. We fly her mom and dad, who haven't seen me in a year and a half because I'm enemy number one. So that's completely still broken. But we fly them to Vegas. Her dad is a missionary, so her dad performs this ceremony, and we got remarried right on the strip of Vegas, underneath the "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas" sign. Right. On a Saturday night in Vegas, we got remarried 4 days after she came home, right there on the strip, and it happened that quick. And an interesting part of the story, I was like, Lord, why did we go to Vegas? Like, I know that was you, and I was like, what was that? And what I really felt the Lord say, and this might be controversial. Going with this. Yeah. But I'll just tell you what I know the Lord said. He says, Jason, I want you and Christine to stand right in the middle of the strip. Yeah. Right where the enemy has destroyed so many marriages. And Vegas had nothing to do with our story. But he's like, I want you to stand there and watch. And what he told me, he's like, Jason, I want you to prophetically give the middle finger to the devil and let him know this is what happens if just one of my children stand on my promise. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I even think about all the people that very flippantly get married in Vegas. Yeah. It's like it's such a juxtaposition, of this whole thing. Wow.
Crazy.
What a story.
I mean, and how long have y'all been married the second time? When was that?
8 years, 9 years, 8 years.
Okay.
2017, maybe 2016.
Okay, you got remarried.
And to be honest, we don't even remember. I mean, we have that anniversary, but it was in October. I think October 7th. Okay. Only because we went to the Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil show after the ceremony, and there's a picture and it has the date on it, and that's the only reason I know. But we still celebrate our original wedding anniversary. Yeah. We still celebrate our December that we were married in 2003, and so we just that's what we celebrate, and that's what we acknowledge.
So Jason, your book 40 Day Stand, tell us about that.
Yeah, so we just wanted to create just a journey that someone can walk through. How do we? Here's my goal and what my hope is that people understand that no matter what God is leading you through, God is a good God. Yeah, and He is a God of joy, of hope, of faith, of peace. And even though we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I can fear no evil. I don't have to be bound to fear. And so we just put together a 40-day journey of just walking you through, giving you scriptures every single day, giving you declarations to pray, giving you lies to understand and just reject, and just giving you a devotion of how does someone walk through this season and actually have hope and joy? Because we don't need people depressed. We don't need people. I mean, understand it's sad. I mean, this is heartbreaking. But how does the Lord heal us? How do we walk through a journey of being rejected, of actually also you coming to the realization, okay, what did you do? You know, chapter 1 of the book is nothing is impossible with God. Okay, we got to know that. But chapter 2 is start with me, Lord.
Yes.
Start with me. And so so our journey, I told you, Christine went into a women's abuse shelter, and I never would have said that I'm some kind of abuser. But what happened here is that the way I spoke to Christine, I modeled it after my dad. And I'm over here like, my dad was loud. We're these loud Texans. And I'm like, well, this is normal. Christine, the most soft-spoken, her dad never raised her voice. And so she told me for years, Jason, I don't like how you're talking to me. I don't like how you're talking to me. And I just discounted her. I'm like, oh, this isn't yelling. You should know what my dad. I discounted my wife's hurt. She was telling me for years, I don't like what you're saying to me. And I just didn't honor her. I just discounted it because I'm like, well, this isn't that bad. And it wasn't until the Lord really showed me, Jason, I have called you to love her like I love the church. And this is unacceptable for you. And so we walk on that journey, but then we also, okay, how do I have joy? How do I have in suffering? How do I have long suffering in joy? Colossians says long suffering with joy.
Right.
That's what the verse says. It puts them together, and we never put together. We're convinced that if it's going to be long, if it's going to be suffering, it's going to be awful. I'm going to be sad. Everyone's going to know I'm struggling. And I'm like, I'm not telling people to fake it. I'm telling you, there is a presence of Jesus that can touch us and walk us through anything, and we can actually have an encounter, and we can live this thing out. And our fruit is available in any season. And I would say if someone is standing for their marriage, we wrote this book to empower you over 40 days. I am not saying, hey, in 40 days, you're going to win your spouse back. Right. No, I have no idea how it's going to be. But I do believe you give God 40 days and watch him transform you, watch you have hope. You know, I get asked, well, what's the biggest obstacle of this? Well, I think it's number one, hopelessness.
Yes.
That's the journey. That's what the enemy's throwing at you and throwing at your spouse. Why did Christine leave the marriage? It wasn't just because we had issues. Yes, we had issues. That wasn't why she left. She left because she lost hope that it could ever get better.
Right.
Yes.
She just became hopeless.
Yes.
And so why do people stop standing and they move on?
Yeah.
They just become hopeless. They're like, well,
good.
I guess this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And that's the battle. And so that's what we try. That's the one thing I just want to hope and impart and teach. Look, God is the God of hope. That we have an encounter.
God of all hope.
Yes.
Fill you with joy and
about,
peace and believing that you abound with hope. That's one of my favorite scriptures.
Love it.
So, Jason, what is one of your favorite stories of standing supernaturally that, like, if you were to have looked at the situation, like, I mean, hope against hope type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one, we have a couple stories. So in the book, at the end of every chapter, I put a testimony of a marriage that was restored.
Oh, wow.
Because I know it's not common. And so I'm like, okay, I can teach you and I can tell you my story, but I want to say, look, here's 40 real life examples of marriages that were done, that were dead. Their spouse said, they're done. It's over. And so we put some stories in there, and there's a couple of them in there. One that's coming to my mind is, I can't remember if it's in the book or not. We have a situation that the worst fear is that his spouse is now pregnant with a baby, with another man. And he's like, surely this is over now, Jason. And he actually, surely there's no way. But guess what? God healed and restored that marriage. Okay. And there's another story that's even crazier. This blows my mind. Okay. It's a story of Jason and Heather, and it's in the book. And they mentioned, guess what? So they got divorced. Jason then got remarried. Okay. That marriage fell apart. Jason got remarried again.
Wow.
That marriage fell apart. And now they're restored back to Heather.
Wow.
He got remarried 2 times to 2 different people.
Man.
And so God still restored it. And so, I mean, that blows our mind. And okay, well, what happened? I don't know. The goodness of God. I mean, we just got to ask, okay, Lord, and there's story after story and of just people moving on and people, just people, it's over. Well, my question is, well, is it? I mean, it's understandable to think it probably is, but ask the Lord, is it? Because I really believe God is doing something in this season. I believe he is awakening something. And I think what's so significant is if you look at this, even on a theological sense, Jesus compares him in the church with a marriage.
Yeah.
And he says, this is so precious to me And I feel like just as God's coming back to restore, to have a bride, right, to have a big old party as the bridegroom.
Yeah.
And what if he's giving us a restoration of him in the church? Well, doesn't it make sense that even prophetically, he's also restoring
very
marriages?
good.
That if the enemy is trying to steal, because I think there's nothing more the enemy wants to do is to break up people with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Common sense.
Totally.
He wants to break up the marriage of Jesus and the church.
Yeah.
That's what the enemy's doing. Well, he can't do that. So what does he do? The enemy is trying to break up this prophetic symbol of that exact same thing. He's like, well, I can't break Jesus and the church up, so I'll break what Jesus had represents it. And that's why he comes after marriage so much. Yes, he comes to steal, kill, destroy. He hates me. He hates Christine. Yes. But he also, who does he hate more? He hates Jesus more. And he wants to make Jesus hurt by breaking this thing up. And so I just think even prophetically, that God is on the move of something. And what we once thought was dead, what if God is breathing new life into this thing?
Yeah.
It's just a question. I'm like, hey, let's ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Lord, are you in this thing? And I believe our sheep hear my voice and they follow me.
Yes.
Let's just ask. Let's find out. And then if he says yes, well, okay, now let's figure out how do we do that?
Yeah.
Because of course we're going to get opposition. Of course, people we love dearly, I mean, they're going to tell us to move on. Oh, it's over, move on.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, how do we hear that? And so that's just the journey we walk on.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it, ladies. It's pretty
It's
incredible.
amazing.
Yes,
We're seeing
it is. It's so unique. Will
Yes.
you pray, Jason,
So
for
unique.
Yeah.
people who are just hopeless? I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
that is like
Yep,
the
that's it.
word.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for where Christine was, male and
Yeah.
female, you know,
Yep.
that just are like, I lost it. I lost it.
Yeah.
It waned off.
Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to.
Thank
So,
you,
Father,
Lord.
I just pray over every person watching this. And I pray right now that every person would encounter the God of hope. That may the God of hope fill them up with joy and peace in believing, and that they may overflow by the power of the Holy Spirit. So, Father, I just pray that you would breathe new life into every dead situation. God, I pray that you would even impart fresh vision. And even if it's just the smallest of light, Lord, I pray that you breathe on that light, that you show them what you're doing, Lord. And so we just speak peace. God, I speak peace right now over every struggling and every dying and every dead marriage. And we declare that the God of peace is crushing Satan under their feet right now, God. And I just thank you that you are the God who restores. You are the God who redeems. And I declare that nothing is impossible. So I just pray that everyone and anyone who's watching this, that you would touch them, that they don't hear my words, they hear your words, and that your hope would begin to be imparted fresh into everyone who's watching this. And I declare that they're standing for their marriage, that in Jesus' name, their marriage is restored.